Welcome to Blog Talk Radio in high fidelity.
Broadcasting from Cincinnati, you're listening to the Ringside Reporter podcast. All the news from the world of boxing right here.
Well, I'm talking to you the way I want to talk to you.
Now, here's your host, Eric Lorda.
And we are live. Welcome to the Ringside Reporter podcast, where we talk about the latest boxing news. If it's related to boxing, we'll talk about it here. My name is Eric Lorta, and I'm here with my co-host, Ringside Robert, and England's adopted son, Joe Habib. And we have a great show for you today. And as always, you can catch us on the web at www.ringsidereporter.com. If you want to call and ask questions or just give your 2 cents, you can call in right now at 323-870-3857. Hit option 1 if you want to talk to us. And we'll be here till about 9 o'clock tonight. Today, we're going to talk about heavyweight Luis Ortiz signs with Albert Heyman. We'll tell you what that could mean and who he could fight next. Could Lemieux versus Canelo happen in September instead of Canelo Triple G? We'll talk about it. Ricardo Mayorga is involved in our train wreck of the week. But first, we get started with Mairis Briedis versus Marco Huck. Mairis Briedis outboxed former champion Marco Huck to win the WBC Cruiserweight title Saturday night in Dortmund, Germany. Scores were 116-111, 117-110, 118-109, all for Briedis. Huck was outboxed from beginning to end in this fight. He looked very tentative throughout the fight. He just didn't look like he was there, man, honestly. He wasn't winning the rounds, and he just seemed disinterested at times. He really looked like his age caught up with him. Not sure exactly what happened. This was not the Huck of old that we're used to. With the victory, Briedis becomes the WBC World Champion. The title became vacant, actually, when Tony Bellew was named Champion Emeritus, whatever that means, by the WBC. Bellew is now campaigning at heavyweight. I almost said welterweight. Can you imagine that? But now, as far as this fight went, I was kind of surprised with the not necessarily with the outcome, because I picked Briedis to win. I thought he would win. But I was really surprised at the way he won. It was a very safety first, very caution first type of fight for him. And for as big as he is, as many knockouts as he has, I expected him to take the fight right to Huck. I expected him to put the pressure on him and try to get him out of there early, But instead, he showed a lot of poison there. And I can't really hate on his performance, man, because even though I didn't see it coming, even though not really the fight you wanted to see, he outboxed him and he looked good doing it. I mean, he used his jab, he used angles. He looked really good. I was really surprised at how good he looked. Beeb, you saw some of this fight. What did you think of Briedis?
It's so funny. Ironically enough, Marco Huck, saying his age caught up with him. But these guys are both 32 years old. But the difference is Marco Huck's got a lot more miles on the tank. He has 46 fights, and Briedis only has 22 fights. And he has 18 knockouts. But again, Marco Huck has that reputation of being that, he out of nowhere, he can hit you with a good shot and get you out of there. We've seen him be in wars with guys, Afalabi, he's been in some pretty tough fights with him, back and forth battle. Gawaki, that fight was nip and tuck, but it was a war up until the time, Huck got stopped. But, Huck hurt Gawaki and Gawaki hurt Huck. And before Huck got hit with that shot against Gawaki, he looked like he was kind of somewhat in control, and the tide was turning in his favor. So I think Briedis of Huck. But again, this could have just been that fight for Huck that he hit the wall because, again, he's been in a lot of tough fights. He's a very good boxer. Even when he fought Vacant, I thought he won that fight. I thought it was a bad decision going against him. There was a split decision loss against him, or I think it was majority decision, one of the two. But Marco Huck, been a champion in the past a couple times. So Briedis knew who he's in there with. But again, there and outbox the guy easily. Why take a chance? This was pretty much a whitewash. It was very one-sided. And, I'm not so sure if Huck can rekindle that flame and be that fighter he once was. He could just be turning the quarter. 46 fights, only being 32 years old. He's got a lot of that's a good amount of fights for a guy that's 32. And again, he's been a multiple champion. So keep an eye on this Briedis kid because I didn't know too much about him. Looked very technically sound. And, you know, it was funny because Huck just did not look like he wanted to really engage a lot in this fight. And we've seen Huck, you know, step forward and try to take it to guys, try to initiate some action. But I don't know. Again, he looked very complacent, as you said. Maybe he was concerned about the high knockout ratio from Briedis, and he didn't want to get tagged with anything. So maybe both guys showed each other maybe too much respect, but at the end of the day, slow. He looked a step behind all night, and Briedis definitely took advantage of that, and he just piled up the points. So you can't fault him for that. Let's see what happens next. It'll be interesting to see where Huck goes. Huck says he's not going to retire after this loss, so maybe he's just saying this was an off night for him, and maybe if he could kind of, you know, change things up a little bit and kind of step on the gas a little bit. We'll see.
You know, I tell you, this is funny because I don't think either one of us has seen a lot of Briedis before this.
No,
this is the first time watching him for a full fight. You know, I've seen him on, you know, highlight reels, stuff like that. I've seen, you know, some highlights of him and everything like that. You know, and they're always
looks like a murderous puncher. He looked like a murderous puncher from the highlights.
Yeah, but what you said right there, it just kind of echoes what, like, you know, that guy was technically sound.
Yeah, he was. Really,
I didn't expect that. I didn't expect that
fighter. He's solid.
Yeah. I mean, he looks solid. I mean, he looked like he's a tough out for anybody in that division. You know, I mean, he really is. I mean, he just looked so technical in that fight. It was just in Marco Huck, you know, he's the one that you think about like a good technical fighter. And I mean, he just he just manhandled that guy. And I don't think it had anything to do with his power. I mean, I'm not saying he doesn't hit hard. I'm not saying he doesn't have any power. But I'm just saying that, I mean, the way he handled Huck, he's going to be a tough out for anybody in that division, man.
Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah.
For sure. All right, let's move ahead here. Antonio Orozco versus Keandre Gibson. Top contender Antonio Orozco scored a fourth-round TKO over previously unbeaten Keandre Gibson on Saturday night in Las Vegas. Orozco was the aggressor throughout the fight. Orozco knocked down Gibson in the fourth with a solid right hand on the chin. Referee stopped the fight. The time was 1:31. No, Orozco's 26-0 with 17 knockouts. He was fighting another undefeated prospect, 16-0-1 with 7 KOs. Looked pretty good doing it. Robert, talk about this fight.
It was as you described. It was domination from round 1 to round 4. It was just, and you knew in the very beginning of the fight, it was just a matter of time before Orozco got the win. And you know, he says he's going to stay at 140, but he's had trouble making this weight for the last couple of fights. I guess he wants a title shot at 140, but it looks like to me he should move up to 147 because, you know, he had to hire a nutritionist and change all kinds of things because I guess he lost a title on the scales when he had a title before. So you might see him move up to the very powerful 147-pound division. And if he moves up there, there's definitely some good fights Oscar can make up there. So what I'm saying to you is I don't know how much longer he's going to stay at 140. He looks like he's ready for 147, in my opinion.
He's a big kid for the weight class, isn't he, Robbie?
Yeah, he is.
Joe, let's talk about this. Let's talk about this for a minute. What do we do? You know, because we're talking about this guy. Like you said, I mean, he's missed weight a couple of times, maybe once or so. Roberts just said he lost his title on the scale. You know, we're hearing more and more of this stuff, and I mean, we may see it again May 5th when Chavez takes the scale. You know.
Oh yeah. That's going to be a hell of a weigh-in.
Yeah, I'll tell you what, I saw pictures, man. Chavez is circulating pictures out there on Instagram and stuff. He looks good. He looks really, really good, man. He looks shredded already, man. He looks good. But he still looks about 170, 180. So, yeah, I don't know.
About 175, and he looks depleted at 175. So
I think I've seen him like not flexed or anything like that, just a picture of him.
yeah,
And he looks like he's still got a lot of room to go. He's still got some room to go.
Yeah.
You know, so he can drop some weight. He for sure can cut. If he's at 175 right now, for sure he can cut 10 more pounds. He can definitely.
But I honestly think though he's a legitimate 175, at least 168. I don't know.
You got to come down to 164.
64. I think that's
164 and a half.
Yeah, 164.
Oh, 164 and a half. That's going to be a tough one.
Yeah.
I really think.
It ain't going to be easy.
Yeah.
It ain't going to be easy. Yeah, but I think he can do it, man.
Oh, he'll do it, but the question is, will he look good in the process of doing it?
You know,
and what will be the results come fight time? Is there a rehydration clause in that fight? Do you know of?
I don't think so, but I don't know.
Yes, there is, and there's very stiff financial penalties too in the contract.
There shouldn't be any rehydration stuff. You know what I mean? Ever in a fight. You know, if you want him to weigh that, then you weigh him on the day of. It's that simple. Then contract it for the day of weigh-in. Because, you know, I mean, he cuts all this weight and then he can only put on so much. I mean, come on, guys. You know. Do you think
well, talk to Canelo and Oscar. They put it in the contract, man.
Yeah.
I remember here I don't remember what the exact numbers were, but I know it's a very stiff penalty if he doesn't make the exact weight.
Well, it's $1 million a pound. I mean, that's what you're dealing with. Yeah, $1 million a pound. So right.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, he better get to Jenny Craig or something like that because $1 million a pound, man.
Better start slamming them diuretics, baby. Memo, hook them up, Memo.
You better buy stock in X-Lax because he'd be buying them by the box, you know, buying them by the crate there, you know.
Oh, yeah.
Jeez. So what do you think?
But,
I mean,
this goes.
I mean, yeah. As far as those
this goes back to our discussion.
Yeah. Go ahead.
Sorry, Eric. I was going to say this goes back to our discussion we had last week. I mean, if you're going to put in these clauses, you got to do same day weigh-in. You can't be doing weighing in the day before and then weighing in first thing in the morning.
Yeah. I mean, it doesn't make a lot of sense, man. And, you know, these guys are trying to squeeze in and squeeze as much water out of them as possible, you know, like Orozco, to try to make it down to 140 when clearly he's not 140 pounds. He's 147, you know, I mean, at least.
Yeah.
You know, I wish we would see more of that. And I think if we saw, do you think if we saw same day weigh-ins, this would change it?
Oh, of course.
Yeah.
Most definitely. A lot of guys would be moving up in weight.
Yeah.
A lot of guys would be moving up in weight without question if we had same day weigh-ins.
All right. Let's move ahead here. Ledwan Bartholomew versus Reynaldo Blanco. Bartholomew dropped Blancos with a series of hard right hands early in the 9th round. Blanco was unable to get to his feet, but Bartholomew continued the onslaught, prompting Blanco's corner to stop the fight at 1:30 of round 9. Bartholomew looked good in this fight, but I don't know. He still looks like he has a ways to go for me. Wasn't quite his brother. Robert, what did you think of this?
I totally agree with your assessment. I mean, had he been totally on top of his game, this fight could have been stopped maybe 2 or 3 rounds sooner. I mean, you know, you could definitely tell there was a class difference, but Bartholomew has some work to do still. Good fight for him, and I want them to continue on this path because it was good for him to get rounds. But let's step up the competition just a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, you know, and he's a younger fighter. So we got to give him some leeway. But yeah, long way from his brother right now. I think long way from his brother.
Right.
All right. Early in the show, it's time already. That time, the train wreck of the week.
Chugga, 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 chugga. Choo-choo!
Ricardo Mayorga versus Wadiel Zapita. Ricardo Mayorga proved once again that he's not changed at all. During the press weigh-in, he slapped his opponent, and then they had to be separated from each other. He did manage to win the fight via third-round TKO. Zepeda, apparently, he looked much bigger than Mayorga in this fight. He looked much bigger than him at the weigh-in also. Mayorga did win the fight, but it looked like he quit. It looked like Zepeda just quit. They wanted him to fight, and he said no. They went to his corner. He said, nope, I'm not going. So immediately after the fight, Mayorga calls out Antonio Margarito. Does anybody have any desire to see this fight? I mean, both of these guys, like, if anybody needs to retire, both of these guys need to retire, you know? But again,
you know what? But some. Go ahead.
I was gonna say, it's funny when you put two guys who are pretty much at the same level. Sometimes you actually get a pretty good fight. So, you know, Margarito and Mayorga. I mean, obviously these guys aren't the creme de la creme at the current state of in their careers, but you know, it could turn out to be a good fight because of that.
They're not exactly
these guys,
creme de la creme, huh?
they're not defensive specialists. They both are aggressive guys. They not afraid to get hit. So you could see one of them wars.
Blood will be spilled.
Blood and guts, gory type fight from these guys. You never know.
Yeah, I mean,
What
and you know, Mayorga is always good for, you know, I always like watching his pressers. I was actually this weekend watching his presser with Fernando Vargas and Oscar De La Hoya and stuff. Just going back, sometimes I would do that, like go to YouTube and watch those old press conferences where Mayorga just goes nuts in there and starts slamming a table or just, you know, berating the guy's wife for no apparent reason, you know. He's just a clown, man. He's great. But I tell you what, who do you think wins that? Who do you think wins the fight between him and Margarito?
I think Margarito wins. Well, I don't know, because Margarito's got that horrible eye right now. I'm going to say Margarito. I'm going to say Margarito.
I'm going to stick with Mayorga.
He's okay.
I'm going to stay with Mayorga.
Yeah, I'm going to have to pick Ricardo Mayorga here. My God. This reminds me of a Brandon Rios kind of event where Brandon Rios could fight somebody and it turns into a bloodbath.
All right, so I got a question for you. Here. Does Mayorga go in the Hall of Fame?
Oh,
why?
I don't think so.
No.
Multiple-time champion, right? Isn't he a multiple-time champion?
Well, besides Forrest, though,
he beat Fernando Vargas.
Did he beat Fernando Vargas?
I thought he beat.
Oh, he did.
Yeah, he
did beat Fernando. But that was 160 something pound version of Fernando Vargas. And
does he have a better resume than Arturo Gatti? I kind of think he does, man.
I don't think so, because Arturo Gatti has some. He has some big wins at 130 though.
Eric, I got another one you can compare him to. What about Paulie Malignaggi?
Ooh, that's a good one too, man. I don't know.
Yeah. Isn't Ray Boom Boom Mancini in the Hall of Fame too?
Yeah, he's from Ohio. You know he's going in.
Yes.
Title town.
Yeah.
That's apples and oranges right there, man. I mean, you just brought up like an orange, and we're talking about apples. You know what I mean? Of course, Boom Boom makes it in. Boom Boom's a legend. He's a legend. What do you mean you don't know? He's from Ohio.
No, seriously, if you compare Ricardo Mayorga and Paulie Malignaggi, which one gets in? Either one?
I'm not so sure Paulie gets in. I mean, again, I don't
know.
I wouldn't be disappointed if Paulie got in, but I don't know.
I don't know either. I don't know if Paulie gets in. I mean, who is he?
Two-time, two-weight champion. I mean, that's your argument you're making with Mayorga here.
Yeah, you know what? But who did he fight to get those two? You know? And, I mean, that's the other thing, too. Like Adrian Bronner, I mean, you know, and he's from Cincinnati. You know, I love Adrian Bronner, but, you know, what is he, a 3 or 4 time world champion and like in 3 or 4 different weight classes?
4-time world champion in 4 different weight classes, yeah.
Yeah, and I mean, but who did he beat? Aside from Paulie Malignaggi, give me a name fighter that he beat to get those belts. You know what I mean? That's the tough part.
He really beat nobody.
It's like saying, you know, when Evander Holyfield won the belt 3 or 4 times or whatever, and he eclipsed Ali in that. You can't tell me he's a better fighter than Ali was, you know.
But you know, in Evander Holyfield's defense, if you look at the Ali era of heavyweights, obviously that was the best, right? But Holyfield's era was probably second to that. When you look at all the eras in boxing, because Holyfield wasn't a great era. He was with Lewis, Tyson, Michael Moore. Michael Moore was in that era.
No, and nobody's you know what I mean. Holyfield,
Riddick Bowe
for sure. Holyfield,
probably just said Riddick Bowe. Yeah, so it's a ton of huge.
Yeah, Holyfield definitely deserves to be in the Hall of Fame, no question. But I'm just going on like when he won that title for the 4th time or the 3rd time or whatever it was to eclipse Ali, and people were saying, yeah, he broke Ali's record, but no, I mean, yeah, he kind of did, but you know, I don't know. It's tough, man, because
I don't think Ricardo Mayorga or Paulie Malignaggi gets in the Hall of Fame. That's just my opinion.
Yeah, I'd have a tough time. Honestly, I'd have a tough time putting Mayorga in the Hall of Fame.
You know, Arturo Gatti got in, and again, no disrespect, he just got in because the types of fights he was in, because he got in because his fights were entertaining. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I just think that, and you know, HBO put him on a lot, and you know, I don't know. It just he was kind of like, I hate to say this because I don't want to sound disrespectful. He was kind of like a media creation. Like, think about it. They named HBO named the Gotti Award after him. And talk about whenever you see a fight that's a war, people will say, "Oh, this is the super middleweight version of Gotti Ward." Like,
right.
fights were historic, basically, especially the trilogy with Ward. Wouldn't you say the reason that Arturo got into the Hall of Fame was because of the Mickey Ward fights?
Yeah, that was a great part of it. Exactly. I agree, Robbie.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
Because I think that's like the measuring stick. You know, when you start talking about Hall of Fame fighters, you know, you say, all right, was he better than Arturo Gatti? Because that's kind of like the benchmark right there, in the sense that, you know, if you're better than him, you get in. You know what I mean? I mean, no question. Because he's in, you know, and it's just like, you know, I'm of the, you know, listen, man, and definitely no disrespect to Arturo Gatti, unbelievable fighter in his day and everything, but I mean, is he Hall of Fame worthy? No, not to me anyway. I'm sorry, but not to me.
Yeah, I wouldn't have voted him in if I had a vote, and that's no disrespect to him.
Right? No, I wouldn't have either.
Well, no, well, think about it this way. If you put up Arturo Gatti's resume next to Paulie Malignaggi's, you'd have to take Paulie over Arturo just because he's a 2-time world champion. I think Gatti only had a belt, once?
Well, and the other thing, too, is we got somebody in the chat just said, you know, seriously, you know, what about Maidana? Is he a Hall of Famer? I don't know.
No. I don't think so.
Probably not, no.
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, I mean...
didn't accomplish enough.
Yeah.
Now, I know Canastota, New York, pretty much lets anybody in these days, but...
wow.
If you think, you know... I mean, I'm talking about fighters. I'm not talking, you know... But to me, when you say Hall of Famer, you have to accomplish an awful lot in whatever sport you're in.
Yeah, I agree with that. Yeah.
Yeah.
I agree with that.
And, you know, you look when Arturo Gatti stepped up and fought Floyd Mayweather, stepped up and fought Oscar De La Hoya. You know, anytime he stepped up to that elite level, you saw what happened. So
he lost.
That's not to say he was a bad fighter. But, you know, when you're in the Hall of Fame, you're supposed to be an exceptional fighter. And he's not an exceptional fighter, you know. The only thing exceptional about him was his heart.
Yeah.
You know,
you could go you could talk about fighters like Antonio Margarito, Eric Morales, you know, Juan Manuel Marquez, and if you wanted to put those guys in based on the type of fights they were in, I could see that. But Arturo Gatti, no disrespect, but yeah, he was in entertaining fights, but he never won a fight to really submit the Hall of Fame status.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, that's a tough one, man. That's like I said, man. I wouldn't have had Gatti in there anywhere, but yeah, I don't know, man. And like I said, Maidana, that's a tough one too. That's a tough one too. I don't know that I'd put him in there either. You know, definitely a better resume, but you know, in Gatti, I mean, would you consider Gatti a B-level fighter? I wouldn't consider him an A-level fighter.
Yeah, he definitely.
I think he's a B-level fighter.
He definitely was not A+. You know, definitely at least a B.
I mean, you wouldn't put him in the same class as Floyd and Oscar, right?
No.
Right. No.
All right, those guys are A-level fighters, right? I mean.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, that's crazy.
And look, we want to make this clear. We're not hating on Arturo Gatti.
No, he's a great fighter, man. But just trying to keep it, you know. Like I said, man, when we talk about like Hall of Fame and stuff like that, I mean, I think everybody's kind of that's kind of the guy you look at. You're like, I mean, when you look at the Hall of Fame and that's kind of the guy that got in, you're like, huh? You know, because he was in entertaining fights, but wasn't exactly Thomas Hearns or Sugar Ray Leonard or Floyd or Oscar. You know what I mean?
No,
so
absolutely no.
Yeah.
No.
All right. What about Marquez? What about Juan Manuel? He goes in, right?
He's in.
Yeah,
he's in.
Right?
Easy.
Yeah,
Easy.
Yeah, I think he goes in. Yeah.
Eric Morales
he goes in.
Morales, easy.
Yep.
Easy.
Barrera, I think Barrera goes in.
Yeah, and Antonio Barrera, Marco Antonio Barrera, I think he goes in.
Yeah, he goes in.
Yeah, for sure. And then obviously Pacquiao's a first ballot, so is Mayweather's a first ballot. Yeah,
absolutely. Yeah.
Canelo, I think Canelo goes in. I think Triple G will go in. Yeah, I think so. Yeah, I mean, those are all like A-level fighters there, man. When I think of like guys like Gatti, I don't see him on that same level, but that's just me.
I agree, Eric.
All right.
Yeah.
All right, and that was this week's action. So let's look at the upcoming fights. So Tuesday, April 4th, from Bethlehem, Pennsylvania. Edner Cherry versus Omar Douglas, 10 rounds lightweights. And Stephen Fulton versus Luis Rosario, 8 rounds featherweights. That is the PBC on Fox Sports. So you can catch that there toe-to-toe Tuesdays. All right. And then let's see here. April 8th, that's Saturday, from Oxon Hill, Maryland. I don't know what's going on in Oxon Hill, Maryland, but they've got a lot of fights coming up. I think they had a fight a couple of weeks ago. That's where the Mansour fight took place a couple of weeks ago. So they got it going on over there, man, up in Maryland. Or maybe that was in Pennsylvania.
They opened up a brand new MGM arena in that area. That's why all the fights are there.
That's what it is. Okay. Yeah. In fact, I think the whatchamacallit fight, Mansour fight took place in Pennsylvania, if I'm not mistaken. But Oxon Hill has got a bunch of fights coming up. So, not the least of which, HBO on Saturday, the big one, Vasyl Lomachenko versus Jason Sosa, 12 rounds for Lomachenko's WBO junior lightweight title. Alexander Gvozdik versus Unieski Gonzalez, 10 rounds light heavyweights. Alexander Usyk versus Michael Hunter, 12 rounds for Usyk's WBO cruiserweight title. Also that same day, from Manchester, England, on beIN Sports in Espanol, Robbie's favorite station, Terry Flanagan versus Peter Petrov, 12 rounds for Flanagan's WBO lightweight title. Liam Smith versus Liam Williams, the Battle of the Liams, 12 rounds for the vacant WBO interim junior middleweight title. That card in Manchester that has Terry Flanagan on it, I'm looking at it right now. There's about 14 fights on it. There's literally like 14 fights, man. I mean, that is just insane.
UK.
That's how we do it. And on April 9th, Sunday, from LA on PBC on Fox Sports 1, Josecito Lopez, the Riverside Rocky versus Saul Corral, 10 rounds welterweights, and Alejandro Luna versus Andre Klimov, 10 rounds light heavyweight or lightweights. And that's this weekend's action.
That'll be on FS1 as well.
Yeah. All right, so let's go back. Let's go back here to the big one this weekend. That's Vasyl Lomachenko versus Jason Sosa. We'll talk about the others on that undercard as well. What I tell you what, I like Jason Sosa. I don't see him getting anywhere near Lomachenko in this fight. After the Nicholas Walters fight, what do you do? I mean, really, I mean, seriously, what do you do with this guy? I mean, how do you, as good a fighter as Walters was going in there, and maybe he had some ring rust on him. Ring rust doesn't account for that performance. No way. If you're Jason Sosa, what do you do? What do you have to do to win, Beeb?
You know, if you go back to the Lomachenko Salido fight, say this, but Salido kind of bended the rules a lot and really made Lomachenko uncomfortable in that fight. Now, Lomachenko has grown immensely from that fight. And even in that fight at the end, in the last round, I thought he hurt Salido, and it looked like if that was a 15-round fight, he could have possibly stopped Salido because he really hurt him in that 12th round, if I remember correctly. But, you know, Jason Sosa is a big, strong, not the slickest kid in the world, not the most technically sound kid in the world, but he's what you call in the business a grinder. You know, he just goes in there, puts his head down, grits his teeth, and tries to get in your chest and really. Now, he's going to have to maybe push the envelope a little bit in this fight and try to do some of those things Salido did. Because when you have a guy like Lomachenko, who's a very technically sound, somewhat conventional fighter, advanced and very, very skilled at what he does. You know, I'm not trying to oversimplify what he does, but he's basically a genius. He's a boxing genius without question, and he's an outstanding counterpuncher. So when you're that type of fighter and you're a counterpuncher, you kind of need space a little bit. You like to, you know, be able to move and maneuver. But if someone's in your chest, grabbing you and leaning on you and bumping you up your rhythm a lot, then sometimes you can be taken out of your element, taken out of your comfort zone, and on being so technically sound and so conventional because your opponent is turning the fight into something that's not technical. He's taking it and turning it into a wrestling match or a barroom brawl. And that's the only chance, in my opinion, Jason Sosa has. Can he do that? But I think he's going to have to try to do it to win because there's no way blocks Lomachenko.
No.
There's no way. So that's my opinion on what has to happen or what he needs to do to try to have a remote chance of winning this fight.
Robert, how do you see this fight going down?
I think Lomachenko will show once again that he's the best fighter currently in boxing. He's pound for pound number one, in my opinion. And I think he'll take Jason Sosa to school, and people will not like his performance because he'll basically pull a Floyd Mayweather and pitch a 12-0 shutout. I would really like to see somebody give Lomachenko some competition, but I don't know if there's anybody at 130 who's capable of doing that.
All right. Okay. So you got him. I mean, you think he's the number one best pound for pound fighter in the world right now?
Right now, yeah.
Really?
I don't.
Wow.
Now look, look. Andre Ward has accomplished a lot, but he fights so infrequently. Every time he fights, we have to be reminded about how good he actually is. At least Lomachenko in his first 8 fights, he hasn't taken any long layoffs. He actually goes in there and puts on a show. And yeah, Salido bent a lot of the rules, you know, but that's what Orlando Salido does. But I don't know if there's anybody in his current division who can do what Orlando Salido did. I would really like to see him get some competition, but again, I don't know what there is at 130. Can anybody give him a fight? From what I know of the division, my answer is no. And I think this is a walk in the park.
I mean, all right, so here's my take on this. I mean, pound for pound, I mean, like, what is he at? 8 fights? He's 7-1? Is he 7-1?
Yeah.
He's lost. I mean, he's lost like one, and not that makes it any you know, either or. Just because he's lost doesn't mean he's not the best pound for pound. But with only 8 fights, one of those fights he's lost. How can we classify him the best pound for pound right now? I mean, you got Ward, who's never. I don't really care. I mean, you got Ward, who's never lost.
Eric, I really don't care. I really don't care about pound for pound, but right now,
well, I'm just trying to see where your head's at. I mean, I'm just trying to see where your head's at. That's all. I'm not like, you know, I'm just saying, like, I'm just want to know why you think he's pound for pound and why you would rate him over a guy like Andre Ward or even. I don't think Triple G is. I think Triple G is maybe top 5. I don't know that he's, you know, any higher than that. But I mean, why would you rate him higher than Triple G?
Eric, activity, in my opinion, activity means a lot, and he's not taking long layoffs. I pay attention to fighters who actually get in there and fight.
What's a long layoff though? I mean, is fighting 2 times a year? I mean, let's take it like 2 times a year. Because prior, didn't he fight 3 times last year? Ward fought like 3 times last year.
Yeah, he did. Yeah, he did. But look at Andre Ward. He fought in November, and they're still negotiating on when he's going to fight next.
June 17th is what I'm hearing. June 17th is what I'm hearing for that rematch.
Yeah. Yeah, I know. But I pay attention to fighters who actually step in the ring on a regular basis. At least 3 times a year.
All right, well, talk to me about Triple G then. How come? How does he jump ahead with Triple G? Because I'm not coming out pro or con. I mean, I'm not saying like that he is better. I'm not saying that, you know, he's not one of the pound for pound best. I'm not. But what I'm saying is I don't know that he's the pound for pound best yet. So like Triple G, who fights frequently, undefeated middleweight. Just went down in weight and fought Kell Brook.
You know I'm a Golovkin guy, but he only fought twice last year.
Yeah, but I mean,
yeah, but you know what? Day and age of boxing, and
that's all they're gonna fight.
Yeah, and also when you're fighting top level guys, you can't fight 4 or 5 times a year. You know what I mean?
No.
But you know, but to speak to what Robbie's saying.
No, but don't you think 3 times is sufficient? Why does it have to be twice?
Well,
someone argue. I tell you what,
as a fan, I'd like 3 times, but you know, I'm just going by what's the norm in today's day and age. That's all.
And this is a good argument. And De La Hoya posed this argument. I know Floyd posed it all the time. Listen, if you're a megastar, look at Canelo, you know, who fights in May and fights in September. All right, those are the big money dates. Yeah. Those are, you know, if you can grab those,
I know.
Then those are the dates you fight. You know, and that's twice a year because it takes you X amount of months to promote that fight.
Those are Canelo dates. We know that.
Well, they were also Floyd dates too. But what I'm saying is, you know, they could say, well, it takes this long to promote a fight. I mean, you know, so, I mean, can you really hold the activity against him? If he fights 2 mega fights, it's kind of tough to hold that activity against him. You know what I mean?
But you know what?
I suppose you're right about that, but in Lomachenko's case, when is he going to get a mega fight? I mean, he thoroughly is dominating like his division right now.
Yeah, but you know what? He's only got like 8 fights. You know, I mean, and who's he fighting? He's fighting Jason Sosa, and he's not exactly a world beater. I mean, and that's no disrespect to Sosa, but he's not exactly in Lomachenko's league. You know,
but you know what, Eric?
No, that's my problem, Eric. He's a good fighter, but he's got no competition.
But you know what? You know what it is, though, too, Eric. You know what? I'm sorry, Robbie. You know what it is too, because Robbie's not the only one that is putting Lomachenko at pound for pound.
No, not at all.
I think when sometimes you look at a fighter, just term a lot with the eye test.
Yeah.
Lomachenko passes the eye test. I mean,
for sure.
When you watch him fight,
yes, he does.
He just looks heads and shoulders above everybody else. And I'd love to see him move to 135 and clash heads with Mikey Garcia. That's something I'm really looking forward to because that's another guy who's really technical. But Lomachenko is really starting to become a puncher now too. He's really starting to hurt guys, and he's really starting to guard. He's becoming sharper. He's one of those guys that, he's got a lot of amateur fights, not a lot of pros. I just think that he seems to be getting better. He seems to be putting it all together now. And I think it's a lot of it is perception. So what people are doing, in my opinion, at him and they're saying that he's a can't miss to be a pound for pound. So they're already putting him in that slot right now, in my opinion.
Yeah, well, I'd like to see him move up in weight and see how that power translates.
Saturday's going to be a walk in the park, guys.
Yeah, for sure. And that's what it's meant to be, a showcase, Yeah. But yeah, I'd like to see him move up in weight, and let's see if that power carries. And there's talk about him fighting Pacquiao. There's talk about, look, just move up in weight. You're at 130 now. Move up in weight. Go up there and wait. Let's see you fight a Mikey Garcia. Let's see if you could take down a Robert Easter or something like that. But don't go up and fight Terry Flanagan. I don't want to see you go up and fight. Go up and fight somebody. If you're sincerely pound for pound, and that's what people are claiming, I want to see you in there against pound for pound competition, like a Garcia, or even if you want to make the move up even higher, because that's what, and I'm not, listen, man, that's sure.
My argument, Eric.
I'm not saying he doesn't have any skill.
That's my argument, Eric.
What is your argument?
That's my argument. He doesn't have any competition now. He needs to go up. Start eating.
Right.
Go up.
Right. That's the thing. I mean, that's kind of my thing with it too. And look, man, I like Lomachenko a lot. And Beeb is right. He definitely passes the eye test. Is he pound for pound? Will he be? Yeah, he's looking like it. That's for sure. He's looking for like it. But my thing is, I don't know that he's there yet. And that's kind of where I fall on it, because I saw him I think he was rated number 3 on the pound for pound list. I'm like, wow, really? Already? And without really fighting any. I mean, he hasn't fought. I mean, but again, he hasn't fought. The biggest.
Gary Russell Jr. fight was a good fight, though. Gary Russell.
Yeah,
that's a good fight.
That was.
Salido is a pretty good name. Rocky Martinez. Rocky Martinez. Yeah,
the Rocky Martinez fight impressed me. That was the one fight that I looked at because I thought Martinez was gonna. I didn't know if he was gonna beat him or not. I thought Martinez really had a shot to beat him, and he was train wrecked in that fight, boy.
No, but he's getting. I'm telling you, when I looked at him, I always liked Lomachenko, and I kind of said to myself, he's had so many fights in the amateurs. Can he translate, or I should say, transcend his style into the pros and become better? And I question that, because sometimes when you stay in the amateurs too long, because what's he in his mid-30s? He's 33-ish right now. I think 33-ish, 32-ish.
32, 33, somewhere around there.
Yeah, so to beat that age and only have 8 pro fights, whatever, yourself, can he adapt to the style? Can he really expand upon his style further? That's what's impressing me about him right now, because it's so easy to get locked into that amateur style. Like even Rigondeaux, as good as he is, he's pretty much not really changed things up. That's what people have critical of him. He's a guy you either love or hate. He hasn't really added any new wrinkles to his style, and a lot of it is he kind of is really stuck in that amateur mode where he's looking just to outpoint guys. He's looking to do it, methodically. Everything is technical. A lot of times he's looking to just touch you, score points. But Lomachenko is just doing different things and is sitting down on shots, really going to the body now. He's really looking to become a better fighter.
Yeah.
And add a lot of dimensions to his game. And I think he's doing that. And that's why I'm so impressed with him right now.
Yeah, and I'm impressed with him too. And don't get it wrong, man. I think he's a really, really solid fighter, man. He's a good fighter. I just need to see a little bit more from him before we actually say he's pound for pound the best guy out there. Especially when you got a guy who's unified 168.
He'll be putting a KO on his record Saturday night.
Again, he's not fighting anybody. He's not fighting anybody. You know, I mean, you got a guy up there with Andre Ward, who's done it 168 unified, 175 unified, undisputed both weights, won the Super 6 tournament. You know, that's a pound for pound, man. 160, 168, 160, 175. That's pound for pound right there. I mean, until he loses, man.
I agree, Eric. I mean, Andre Ward's my pound for pound right now. I don't care what anyone says. That's just my opinion.
Yeah, and he's been mine.
You can disagree if you want, but I
for a long time. However, I mean, and however you view the Sergey Kovalev fight, the bottom line is, look, there's a lot of ways to win a fight. There's a lot of ways to lose a fight. He lost. Andre Ward won the fight. They gave him the fight. I know. Whether you like it or not, you know, they gave him the fight. So that's how it is. All right, let's talk about all right, and I've been taking a task here, apparently in the chat. It's Alexander, and I've been pronouncing it Gavodstik. Apparently it's pronounced goat stick. I'm going to take your word for it, all right? Because if you were that passionate to type it down like that, I'll take your word for it. So Alexander Goatsdick versus Unieski Gonzalez, 10 rounds light heavyweights. This should be a pretty good fight. And Goatsdick is pretty good, really good, as a matter of fact, and that should be a pretty good fight. But the one I really want to see, man, the one I'm really dying to see is Alexander Usyk versus Michael Hunter, 12 rounds for Usyk's WBO cruiserweight title. Usyk is the one. He's the one that beat Glowacki, right? Krzysztof Glowacki.
I believe
That's
so.
correct, I think.
Yeah, I believe so.
Right.
That's like for Huck's lineage or whatever. And Usyk is a very good fighter, man, and Hunter's not bad either. So this should be a pretty good fight. Jesse Hart also on this undercard.
That'll be a nice triple header.
Yeah, I think so too, man. That's a good. Those are those are the triple headers you want to see, and it's not on pay per view. Like Aram's April 22nd card.
Yeah.
So, Jesse Hart also on the undercard versus Alan Campa. You won't see that, but I'm sure you could probably YouTube it or something like that, and then find it that way. And now we're going to make our way across the pond and talk about this one from Manchester, England. Terry Flanagan versus Peter Petrov, 12 rounds for Flanagan's WBO lightweight title. B, why don't you talk about this fight, man? Because Terry Flanagan's your boy. Peter Petrov is no joke, man. He can fight. Petrov can fight.
Yeah, Peter Petrov's a tough guy. He's an inside fighter. And Flanagan, you could say he's an outside fighter, but he's going a little bit on the inside too. I mean, when he fought Magdaleno, I thought he landed some short shots up close. Petrov's definitely he's a tough kid. He's been in there with some tough fighters himself. He won that tournament, the ESPN tournament. Did he won that tournament, the ESPN tournament? Am I correct, or did he lose that one?
I think he lost.
Did he lose that one? But he was in the final. Was he up in the finals?
The Boxino, right?
The Boxino, right? Was he in that? Was he in the finals of that or something?
I think he was close. I think he was pretty close. I think he was like in the Elite Eight or something like, in like that semi.
Yeah, I thought he was in the finals of the semi, something like that.
I think it was like in the final four.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. But you know what? I'm really high on this Flanagan kid. He's another kid that I think is really sharp. He's patient. When I talk about fighters who I really like, I like the guys with the versatility. And Flanagan has shown me, like I said, he can counterpunch. He can fight moving backward, moving forward. So when he sits and plants his feet, he can really hurt guys too. Sits down on his shots. So I just think the guy, dude, I'm going to have to ride with him, and that's Terry Flanagan. As much as I think Petrov is a tough competitor, tough customer in there, I just think Flanagan can do more things. He knows how to use his size very effectively. And I love guys who are tall and lanky like that and who can shorten up shots and be somewhat effective on the inside, even though that's not where he should be at all times, because he does have that height and reach and that length. When you close the distance on him, he's not afraid to just bend his knees a little bit and turn them over up close. And he's got some good uppercuts up close as well. So I think Flanagan's going to win this fight. The question is, will he win by knockout or by decision? I think he can actually stop Petrov. I think he can. So I'm going to roll with Terry Flanagan. Yeah,
I think so too, man. It's I tell you what, man, it's so tough to go against somebody when they're fighting in England. When like Terry Flanagan, he's fighting in England. It's so tough to go against him there because it's so hard to win over there, man. And Petrov is good, but yeah, I'm gonna have to roll with Flanagan on this one too, man. I think so. Let's talk about Liam Smith versus Liam Williams. This is the undercard of the Petrov-Flanagan fight. 12 rounds for the vacant WBO interim junior middleweight title. Again, interim, whatever that means. Either you got the belt and you're the champ. If they give you the belt, are you the champ or not? Yeah, I'm an interim. I'm a regular champ. If I get the belt, then I'm the champ. That's it. And that's how it should be. But I don't know. Liam Smith looked awful in his last outing, and really disappointed me in his last outing. I don't know too much about Liam Williams, but you know what? I'm going to roll with Liam Williams because Liam Smith looked like garbage last time. So, Beeb, what do you think?
Well, you got to look at who Liam Smith was in there with. So is Williams going to be able to mimic that type of fight?
He looked like Canelo. Right.
That's a big ask. So, Liam Smith is still a solid fighter. I'm not going to jump ship on him. Maybe I have to concede that Canelo is just that good. Obviously, he's better than Liam Smith was. But I don't think Liam Williams is better than Canelo. And Liam Smith, so I'm gonna roll with Liam Smith, man. I don't think Liam Smith forgot how to fight all of a sudden. So I liked him before the Canelo fight, and I'm gonna still like him now.
How do you come back if you're Liam Smith, man? How do you come back from being obliterated like that? I mean,
I will say this
because he was just demolished, and you could tell he was trying in there.
Yeah,
he was way overmatched, and this wait.
But I will say this, and this may sound controversial. You could look at a guy like when Kell Brook was getting battered by Gennady Golovkin. Like I was watching that, saying to myself, "Wow, Golovkin is taking years off of this kid's career, right in front of my eyes." Now. Do I think Canelo was doing that to Liam Smith? Liam Smith was, he was getting hurt. Don't get me wrong. But it didn't look as bad as Kell Brook. That type of beating. Because he kept coming back. He kept trying. He kept landing some pretty decent shots amidst all of the was doing to him. Now, did he win rounds? Maybe 1 or 2 rounds in that fight. Maybe. He was losing the fight handily, but he was fighting back in every round. Like it looked like he didn't concede. He didn't give any quarter in that fight. And at the end of the fight, he didn't really look discouraged. He looked okay. It looked like he's going to be able to pick up the pieces and move on. Brook at the end of his fight with Golovkin, I said to myself, this kid may never be the same again. When I saw Liam Smith against Canelo. So that's just my take on it. Maybe someone else could, beg to differ with me, but that's how I saw it. So I don't think that was a career-altering fight, that Canelo fight. I just think that maybe damaged his pride a little bit, if any, but I think he'll be able to pick up the pieces and move on, as I said. So
he's getting murked on Saturday, son.
Pie in the face.
I'm not that confident in it.
Oh God.
All right, and that's the fights this weekend, man. That's it. That's all we got this weekend. Not a whole lot, but that's what we got. So let's move on to our news and rumors section here. So this is interesting, man. This is real interesting. David Lemieux versus Marco Reyes has been added to the Canelo versus Chavez undercard. I like David Lemieux on the card, especially since it's a pay-per-view, and David Lemieux always comes to fight. He looks for the knockout. He just had a big win. I like the way he fights, but you got to wonder, man, is this a stay-busy fight for Lemieux so that him and Canelo can fight in September instead of Canelo Triple G? I don't know.
It's a good question.
Eric, that's what it looks like.
That is kind of what it looks like. Is that what it's looking like? I mean, I'm not, listen, man, I'm just saying, I think that that's kind of what it's looking like,
I'm going to be honest with you.
I think Canelo and Oscar are looking for a way to fight Lemieux instead of fighting Triple G.
This is what I think is going to happen.
I don't think that's fair, but
This is what I think is going to happen. It's going to be Canelo and Billy Joe Saunders in September.
Wow, you think so? They're negotiating. I know they're negotiating with Billy Joe Saunders right now. Triple G is.
Yeah,
the funny part, the best part about that whole thing, Billy Joe Saunders just came out on Twitter and said, "I'm done with the Golovkin negotiations. He's dragging his feet. I'm moving ahead with my career." His promoter just came out and says, "No, we're not done with negotiations yet." He's such a troll, son.
I have a feeling the fight's not going to happen.
Billy Joe Saunders talks his way out of more fights than he actually fights.
He's great, man. He's great on the mic, man. I mean, he's gonna be able to sell a fight, man. That's for sure. Doesn't fight much. Doesn't fight many name guys, but man, he could talk for sure. He could talk on Twitter. He could type. He could type on Twitter. I don't even know if he could talk because he's not really selling much.
I'm telling you, man, he's got good hand speed. He's got those Twitter fingers, baby.
Yeah, that's right. So, Robert, is this what it's looking like to you, that they're teeing up Lemieux so that they can fight in September?
Yeah. And once again, I'm a Golovkin guy, but this sucks. Because let's face it, whether I like it or not, and I have nothing against Canelo. But Canelo is the money guy. And the way it's looking like, he can fight whoever he wants, and he's gonna make a good payday. He's gonna sell out whatever arena he seems to be in, and enough people will buy it on pay-per-view to make Oscar De La Hoya and Golden Boy happy. I don't know how you can campaign as a middleweight and not fight the middleweight king. I really don't. But that's what it's looking like.
He's not even worried about any of the belts. I mean, he's not. And I mean, and I disagree with Beeb. I don't think he's going to fight Billy Joe Saunders. I mean, I think that would be a great move, but that'd be how killer would that be? I mean,
no, but think about it though. Let's just think about this.
But David Lemieux is on the Golden Boy card. That's why I say that David Lemieux is their team.
I understand that, but let me ask you this: what's a more dangerous of a fight, Billy Joe Saunders? Right.
Yeah.
So this is what now. Listen to the logic here. Billy Joe Saunders, you bring him to Vegas, okay? If it goes a distance, Canelo's not going to lose a decision in Vegas. Okay, number one. Number two. You take that WBO title, and now you put Canelo for unification. How much better is that?
Much better.
How much better is that?
Much better. Better.
That's what I'm thinking.
I agree. I don't know that this is the way it's going to go down, but what was that, Robert?
I was saying, Tom Woffler, you're getting screwed over again for the second consecutive year.
Yeah, what do you do?
What can I say?
Well, what do you do? Wouldn't that be dynamite if he came in and swooped up Billy Joe Saunders?
I'm telling you right now, man. If I was Oscar, that's what I would be doing right now. Billy Joe, here you go. Here you go, Billy Joe. Here's $5 million. Come to Vegas.
But though, since it's all about money, is it a penny wise, pound foolish to take David Lemieux versus Billy Joe Saunders?
Billy Joe Saunders ain't fighting David Lemieux.
No. What I'm saying is, would it be a penny wise, pound foolish for Golden Boy to take David Lemieux versus Billy Joe Saunders? Because on the flip side, he's not going to make as much money. He's not going to make as much money with Billy Joe. He's not going to make as much money with Billy.
Well, keep one thing in mind, Eric.
Go ahead.
David Lemieux is already promoted by Golden Boy, so it's an in-house fight.
That's what I was saying. Yeah.
That's what he was just saying, Robbie.
Right.
Yeah.
So but I mean, like with Billy Joe Saunders, though, that, like I said, man, he's not going to make as much money up front. But again, man, to have that belt and then go in with the pay-per-view, the pay-per-view numbers, the belt for the unification, that's what Triple G wants. I mean, to me, that, like I said, the Lemieux fight is going to be worth more money up front, but I think the Saunders fight could let him worth more money overall. I don't know. But if you look at it this way, he'll still have a unification fight either way it goes. So, but long story short here, Beeb, do you think that fight comes off in September? Do you think Triple G Canelo comes off in September?
No, I do not. I absolutely do not. I think we're probably going to see it next year. Maybe.
It doesn't look like it. It really don't.
Yeah, it's not going to happen. It's not going to happen. I think they even know it's not going to happen because they're talking about moving up to 168 already as a backup plan. So why are they even thinking about backup plans if they were confident that the fight was going to happen? So that's just my opinion.
Yeah, I think it's a mistake to move up to 168 for him. I really do, especially after seeing with Jacobs and everything like that. I think that's a mistake for him, man. I think he's at his weight. But you can argue that he cleared out the division.
Well, I wanted him to move up to 168 for a long time. And I thought he would be competitive at 168. And he's probably still will be competitive at 168. But one thing is for certain, in my opinion, after that Jacobs fight, there's no way he's going to start be able to get a 20 fight or 18 knockout streak at 168. He's definitely not going to bring that power up to 168 after seeing what happened with Jacobs.
Oh.
Those guys are bigger than Jacobs. They're probably just as fast as Jacobs, some of them.
Yep.
I just don't see it. So.
Well, since we're talking about weight here, guys, how long do you think Canelo will actually be able to stay at middleweight? Do you think eventually he'll wind up moving up and they could do the Triple G Canelo thing at 168?
No,
he's too small. He's too small.
Canelo's not moving up. I mean, he's going to entertain the Chavez fight because it's a big money fight, and it's been a big money fight brewing for a long time. But no. You know what he'll probably do is
He'll probably campaign primarily at middleweight, but for the right fight, he may move up. He may create this 64-pound catch weight for when he decides he wants to fight a big name. If the fight is right, it's the right opponent, then maybe he'll do a 164-pound catch weight with a super middleweight fighter. But I don't think he's going to regularly campaign at 168. I don't see him being successful at that. I don't think that would be a good move for him.
So if you're Canelo, you develop your own division, and you just fight whoever you want.
Has he already done that, Robbie? Hasn't he already done that?
Right.
Yeah.
But
well, it sounds like the Triple G fight will never happen.
No, probably not. I mean, honestly, I don't see it happening. I don't. But look, Canelo's, he's making money. If you're Oscar and you got this guy, the Golden Goose, there's no way I put him in the ring against Triple G. He's going to get killed against Triple G. No way. And Oscar knows that. They're not stupid. Because if they thought for 1 second that Canelo's going to win that fight, he'd have fought him last year. He'd fight him. They're not going to fight that guy because they know they can't. That's a fight they can't win right now. Maybe when Triple G's over the hill and he can't fight anymore, then they'll put that fight together like the Pacquiao-Mayweather fight, and all of Mayweather's other fights. They'll put it together then.
Stretch it out another 5 years.
Right.
Over 40 and then.
Right. Because, like I said, man, if Golden Boy knows that's a big money fight, but it's also a big money fight that they're not going to win. So why put that together when they can put a David Lemieux in there who's a big puncher? Why put it together when they can put Chavez in there who's a big money fight? It doesn't make it from a business standpoint.
What happens now? Look, I don't know if this is going to happen, but what happens if Chavez does good and it's a competitive fight and they decide to have a rematch in September. Then what happens with David Lemieux or Billy Joe Saunders?
Who cares? Listen, man, I tell you what, and that Chavez-Canelo fight is not a done deal in the sense of, Canelo's going to walk right through him.
Chavez can win. Chavez can win.
Coming to fight, man. I mean, I've said it from day one. Listen, Chavez Jr. has not looked good, in his past couple fights. But, man, look, when you're fighting, this is like, it's almost like, how you have in like the NFL and you have a team that's like 2-12 against a team that's 12-2, but they're division rivals. All that stuff kind of goes out the window at that point because they're division rivals, because they're rivals. And you see the same thing in the college game. You can have a number one seed, a number one team versus a number 50 team, but they're rivals. They're crosstown rivals or something. And when that happens, man, all those bets are off because those guys are trying to win, and none of the other stuff matters at that point. And that's kind of what this fight kind of reminds me of. None of the other stuff matters at this point. Should Canelo win that fight? Of course. Yeah, he should. But is it a guarantee? No. And if it's a close fight, can you imagine doing that fight in September all over again? Yeah, they're going to do that fight. I mean, because it's going to be a market. It's a marketer's dream. I mean, it really is. It's a marketer's dream. So of course they're going to do that fight again.
And I still say it's going to do 1 million pay-per-views.
It does or does not?
I don't think it does. I think it does 700, maybe 650 to 700. I don't see it. I could be wrong.
It's going to do over 1 million.
It depends. But it depends. If it's pay-per-view, is it pay-per-view in Mexico? I don't know. I know
it's free there.
Yeah, it's probably going to be free there. I don't know, man. Beeb, you don't think it does 1 million?
I don't think it does, just because of the way the pay-per-view is right now in today's day and age. I just.
What does last fight do? What did his last fight do? 300?
Yeah.
Was that against Smith?
Yeah.
300. That was against Liam Smith.
Yeah, it was about 350.
Yeah. So I'm saying 700. I don't think it's going to do 1 million.
You might be right, man. I never thought about that. You might be in that ballpark.
Yeah.
If he does 1 million, I mean, what does that mean for the pay-per-view market? Does that mean pay-per-view back?
But you know what people don't realize, and I have to say this because I was listening to someone talk about this. I'm trying to remember who it was because I want to give them credit for this because they were talking about this. I think it was, I want to say it was Mike Montero was talking about pay-per-view and talking about the Triple G fight. And if you look at it, now people look at it and say, oh, well, whatever it did, 150 or 170,000 pay-per-view buys, right? But the thing is this, if you look at what the fighters made, okay, and then you look at, the live gate and you look at the sponsors, you look at everything involved, because the fighters didn't have gigantic purses, even though the pay-per-view buys were not great in a lot of people's minds. I don't know what you would constitute being a success. Maybe anything over 200,000 for that fight would have been thought to have been a success. But because of what these guys made and everything, financially they didn't lose, is what I'm saying. So when you look at how like Floyd Mayweather, he had to do the numbers he did because his guarantees were so high. These guys in today, they're not getting huge guarantees like Mayweather got. Now Canelo is getting pretty decent guarantees because again he's been consistently pulling in 300 to 350. Triple G on average is getting $2 million a fight. He got $5 million for Kell Brook because of the the UK pay-per-view market over there. So we know how that is always doing well over there because the way they market, the way they promote, and they don't really charge a ton of money for pay-per-views over there, so people don't mind coughing up the dough.
Yeah.
But again, it all depends on what these guys' purses are, and what's going on in terms of the finances. That determines what is a success and what is not. So Tom Lawler didn't lose any money on this pay-per-view, from what I understand, the way it was explained to me. So that's just something to look at.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, what do they charge for pay-per-views over there in England, Joe?
I think it's like like they charge like $35-$40 if I'm not mistaken. Davey Boy,
is that pounds or is that like?
I think that's about if you convert it to US dollars, it's like comes out to like 35 to 40. Davey Boy, correct me if I'm wrong, please. But I know they're significantly cheaper than ours.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, you look at.
Yeah, we're the most expensive pay-per-view market there is, I think.
Yeah, I mean, like $70 a pay-per-view, and I mean that's kind of steep, man. And how much do you think the Chavez fight is going to cost?
That's going to be 75 minimum.
Probably 70.
At least, yeah, at least. Yeah, I mean, with a special occasion, minimum. Yeah.
It might be more.
Yeah. Yeah, you might be right, man. All right, let's move ahead here. Vasyl Lomachenko, and we were just talking about him a few minutes ago, spars with a UFC champion. A video was released this week of Vasyl Lomachenko sparring with former UFC bantamweight champion TJ Dillashaw. For those of you who don't know and don't follow the UFC, Dillashaw is a superstar in the UFC. He is one of their top 5 guys in the company. This guy is about as top shelf UFC as you get. He can strike. He can wrestle. He's just a dangerous, dangerous guy, man. Apparently, he was at the gym and he had a chance to spar Lomachenko. They went about 4 or 5. They went about 4 or 5 4-minute rounds. In the first round, TJ Dillashaw clipped Lomachenko with a left and a huge right hand. Probably one of the best punches I've ever seen landed on Lomachenko, and it didn't even faze him. But definitely seemed to wake him up. From that point forward, Dillashaw was completely dominated by Lomachenko. He completely manhandled Dillashaw throughout the session. Dillashaw said after the fight, after the session, that he was a huge Lomachenko fan, would never pass up the opportunity to spar with him. Lomachenko said he came out relaxed, but then when he got hit with that right, he turned it on. Kind of makes you think what a McGregor-Mayweather fight would look like. You can see the video, the actual video on ringsidereporter.com. Dillashaw is an animal. I mean, he's an absolute monster in the UFC. He's a former champion. Like I said, man, this guy, if you ever watch tape of him, he's one of the best that the UFC has. And Lomachenko just completely from start to finish dismantled this guy. Beeb, you saw the video?
Yes. Again, you know, this is why you have, and you know, guys excel at certain things. Other guys excel at other things. Challenge, you know, Wayne Gretzky's not going to play Michael Jordan in basketball one-on-one. It's just not going to happen. And if it does happen, it's pretty obvious what the result will be. Don't combine the two sports like this. Again, you know, you could take maybe a lower level boxer versus a top level UFC guy and put them together, and maybe the fight could, you know, fight. But if you take the best boxer or one of the elites, put him against an MMA fighter who's elite in MMA, it's going to be. So this should be no surprise. You know, they sit there. You could sit there and say anyone's got a puncher's chance. But if you're in a situation where you have to bet on a puncher's chance, then obviously your odds aren't great. So that's the way I see it.
You know, and I tell you what, I've seen MMA guys box, and it's not like their boxing is terrible. They have like high level boxing. You have to when you become a professional in in the UFC or any organization. Listen, man, if you're going to fight MMA professionally, whether it's in Bellator, UFC, or any one of the organizations out there, even some of the smaller shows, their boxing is on point. I would say that most boxers, you know, they're on par with them. I mean, they really are. You talk about Nick and Nate Diaz, who spar with Andre Ward and that kind of thing, and even Andre Ward says these guys are pretty good. They can fight. You know, they're all really good fighters. But you're talking about guys like Lomachenko, who's one of the top billed guys in the sport, you know, who's won 2 gold medals, 2 or 3, 2 gold medals I think he won. You know, he's a very high level boxer, you know, and you're talking about TJ Dillashaw, who's a high level in his, but it's the same deal, man. You come over to boxing, but like again, man, if Lomachenko was in the cage, there was plenty of opportunities as you're watching that video. You say, man, if TJ just shot on him, he would take him right down because they're in close quarters. You know, he could head kick him or he'd throw some knees and get him away and create some distance. But you can't do that. You know, it's a different sport. You just mentioned like Wayne Gretzky and Michael Jordan. You know, remember when Michael Jordan went to play baseball? Was it for the White Sox?
Correct.
And he wasn't that good.
Yeah,
I mean, he really wasn't. He was an average guy. As much as Michael Jordan loved golf, you don't think if he was good enough he would have turned professional? He absolutely would have. He absolutely would have turned professional. But the thing is, man, is that he wasn't good enough because it's a different sport. You know, just because it's a sport with a ball doesn't mean Jordan was going to excel at it.
But
go ahead.
I'm sorry. Can I just comment on something you mentioned? Because you said that you watched some of these UFC guys in their fights, and it looks like they have good boxing skills. But the reason why it looks like they have good boxing skills is because it's easier for them to open up the headshots because their opponents have to also worry about leg kicks, right. and they have to worry about them shooting on them. So they could throw a feint as if they're going to shoot, or they could throw feint a low kick and open up a headshot. So there's more ways for them to open up their hands, be able to use their hands and open up their headshots because their opponent has to worry about different things. And not only that, the stance is all different. They can't fight. They have to fight squared up. They can't fight, basically from a silhouette, from a side stance.
Sure.
They have to fight squared up because they have to protect themselves from leg sweeps. Because if they put their lead foot in the front, it's going to be right there for a leg sweep. So they have to recondition themselves to not do that if they're boxing, because you can't square up in boxing because you give your opponent, more to punch at, particularly the body shots. So it's a whole different process of reconditioning themselves to box. It's like it's not natural for them to just fight with their hands alone. So that's why. I mean, they would have to sit there and just box exclusively for an extended period of time for them to be able to develop into good boxers. You can't. It's really hard to do both and try to do both because. Sure. And then if you try to do both and then you go back into MMA and then again you fight an MMA fighter as if you would fight that boxer, then you're going to get destroyed. It was so funny when you saw James Stoney fight Randy Couture in the UFC. He came out there and he had that shoulder roll stance, and I looked at that and I said, oh my God, he's going to come out and try to fight Randy Couture in a boxing stance. And what was the first thing that happened? He got taken down in 30 seconds. It was single leg with a single leg. Because a single leg, because again, Randy Couture saw him put his lead foot in front like that, and that's an invitation to come grab my leg and take me down. Right. So when a boxer sees somebody squared in front of them, their eyes light up because it's like, wow, man, here we go. This is target practice. Yeah. And that's the thing. And for MMA boxing, and there's, when you get in the cage and everything, you talk about say the MMA boxing, it is a lot different because they got to worry about takedowns and they got to worry about all that stuff. But, exactly. In the gym, when you watch these guys, when you watch them spar just boxing, they're good. They have good fundamentals and everything. And, and you have to be at somewhat of a high level, but you're talking about the highest of the high levels when you talk about a Lomachenko. You know what I mean? You're talking about world-class level there, and you talk about even contender level there, that's a tough one. Could these guys, take them from the gym because they work on boxing just as much as they work on any facet, but they still have to, they're still not in the gym 5 days a week like a boxer, training boxing like a boxer would train. Because they have to do other disciplines. They got to do the jiu-jitsu and everything like that. So still they can't give that sort of time to boxing, but they're still very good boxers in the gym. But again, once you get out into the cage, it's a different story because they have, they have different things to worry about. But absolutely, they're nowhere near professional type level boxing. Nowhere near. You put Errol Spence in with any of those guys with boxing gloves and you're going to get demolished. It's just the way it is. Correct.
That's why I don't with the Mayweather McGregor, and nobody. I don't know if it's just the hardcore fans looking at it and saying this is going to be a wipeout. Do casuals look at this and say, yeah, McGregor's got a real shot here? I don't see how. I really don't. I mean, just one of those things, man. That was and if you think he does have a shot, go back and watch that video over and over again, and then you let me know. Because anybody who thinks McGregor has a shot will know about UFC. They'll know about Dillashaw. Let me know. Let me know what you think after that. So, staying with the UFC here, David Haye was contacted, is claiming he's been contacted by the UFC. Jimmy Manuwa is a fighter in the UFC. He fought and won a couple of his last fight, and then immediately called out David Haye. David Haye said he not only will accept the challenge, but he's also been in contact with the UFC. Haye claims that representatives from the UFC have been contacting him and are trying to set something up. Is this bizarro world or what? I mean,
I just think that these guys that fight in MMA, with all due respect, they see the money that boxers get, and they want that type of money.
Yeah.
So they want to fight. That's why they want to box.
Should they
Beeb,
should they be getting that kind of money?
Yeah, I think they should.
Yeah.
Again, that's just my
Hard to
opinion, because
argue,
I'm always for the fighter. I don't want to see the promoter make more than the fighter. Why should Dana White make more than the fighters? Bob Arum, he probably does because of all the fighters he has, but like Dana White for a show, when it's all said and done, it seems like he gets like, I don't know, I think he gets a substantial amount of a percentage of what the fighters make, each and every one of them. So, why should it go in his pocket? I would like to see it go in the fighters' pockets.
And Dana White, I guess with his new with the new contract, because they were bought out and by WME, something. But UFC was bought out. But Dana White is still very much running day to day, I believe. But he does have bosses. He does have bosses, But from what I understood, he gets 10% of the company keep. So like when the profits come out, he gets 10% of that.
Yeah,
that's what I understood. Whether that's true or not, I don't know. But that's a pretty big cut there, man.
Yeah, I mean, what I meant to say is when you look at a UFC show, Dana White at the end of the night is making more than the fighter is, and Bob Arum collectively, because he has so many fighters under contract, or even Al Heyman, if you look at it, he may make comparable amounts of money to Manny Pacquiao or whatever, but for a specific show, Bob Arum's not making more than Manny Pacquiao was making. You know what I'm saying? Manny Pacquiao headlines the show. He gets the lion's share of the revenue. Dana White is making more than the fighter is at the end of the night.
I'm kind of curious, yeah. Because it's never released. They release, they'll say they'll release like the main, like 3,500 to win, 3,500 to show or whatever, or 35 to show, 35 to win. But when I look at some of those numbers, man, and I look at like some of the higher level boxers and stuff like that, I mean, there is definitely a big difference.
Well, let me ask you another question. So they have all these bonuses for fight of the night, knockout of the night, whatever.
Yeah.
Submission of the night. So say there isn't a knockout that night, whatever. And there is no knockout of the night. There is no submission of the night. There is no fight of the night. So you're getting, bonus pay, right? So say you don't get that bonus pay, right? Where does that money go? Who gets it?
Well,
does Dana White get it?
No, they've changed the setup on that, because there was like sometimes they had like knockout of the night, submission of the night. I think they just have it's finish of the night or something like that. It's like finish of the night or fight of the night. They've kind of broken it down. So if there is no submission of the nights, they'll give it to somebody. So they do have it.
Okay.
But yeah, but sometimes, like you said, who gets that money? We don't know.
Who gets that money? Does Dana get it?
Yeah, I mean, the rumor is too, and Dana White spoke to this too, and fighters have said also too, they've given me money in the back, that a lot of times, like, they won't publicize the bonuses. I mean, like the bonuses that are there, like fight of the night, submission of the night, and everything like that. But White has also said that like he'll go in the back, and if a fighter had a good outing, then it's not uncommon. Chael Sonnen had talked about this where he said that he had lost to Damian Maia in like one round, and there was a FedEx package sent to his house, and he thought for sure it was like his walking papers, and it was a check for $5,000. And he called the UFC, and they said, no, this is we thought you did a good job, and that's that. So they gave him like a bonus for losing that fight. It was like a $5,000 check for essentially losing the fight. But yeah, I mean, $5,000 is for losing, yeah, okay, but again, I mean, what's Lomachenko making in that fight? What's because a lot of these guys, I mean, that are making, I mean, you look at like Floyd Mayweather, not necessarily Floyd, but let's take Lomachenko. I don't know what he's making in the fight, but I guarantee it's more than 100,000. Well,
let's just take a look at this. You can go back to 1987. Marvin Hagler, when he fought Sugar Ray Leonard in 1987, $1 million. And Sugar Ray Leonard made $13 million. Those were the guarantees without the pay-per-view back end. What's Conor McGregor making a fight right now? Because we're in 2017 right now.
The list price, yeah, that's the other thing. Like the list price on a Conor McGregor fight would be like, say, maybe 500,000 or something like that. But then the champions all get a cut of when you become a champion, they restructure your contract. So then at that point you get a cut of the pay-per-view money. So when you're a champion, because you're the headliner now, you actually get a cut of the pay-per-view dollars coming in. So that's why Conor would bring in like $5 million or $10 million per fight. So I don't know, man. Maybe
so let's add in the back end.
Yeah.
I mean, what is the total? Maybe I don't know, 8 to 10.
Yeah,
if it does.
Maybe.
Okay, that's 2000. This is 2017, and think about it. 1987, Marvin Hagler was getting $20 million. Let's do the inflation on that $20 million.
Yeah.
What would that $20 million equate to in 2017? So that's what I'm saying.
Right.
If you're a star in the sport of boxing, there's nobody in UFC that can touch you, and that's just the facts. And nothing anyone can say can refute that.
Georgie Porgy is in the chat, incidentally, and it says he's talking to you. He says, "Don't worry about the UFC financials. Worry about Beeb Enterprises going under."
How do you know I don't own stock in UFC, baby? You don't know the Beebs. You don't know the Beebs portfolio.
I gotta care about everything.
That's right. The Beebs portfolio. All right, this next story is going to warm Robert's heart. Katie Taylor is in favor of 3-minute rounds for women. Katie Taylor did an interview recently where she's in favor of having 3-minute rounds for women instead of the 2-minute rounds that are currently in place for women. Katie Taylor told the UK Daily Mail, "We spar 3-minute rounds all the time. I'm happy to go 3-minute rounds. I would like to see a lot more knockouts in the women's game. I think you would see a lot more knockouts in the women's game."
Yeah.
So there you go. Robert, what do you think about that? Robert?
Well, I've been campaigning for that ever since we've had to watch the women fight. If you're going to be in the professional game, you fight under the same rules as the men do. I mean, that's the only way I'm ever going to take the female game seriously, is if they fight under the same rules and same stipulations.
Wow. So you don't take it seriously now?
Get your act together and start making real fights and make them 3 minutes apiece each round.
Wow, Robbie.
Harsh.
Oh my goodness.
Harsh.
So I agree with her. Way to go, Katie.
Wow. But he said he wouldn't take boxing seriously. He wouldn't take the women seriously.
Wow. So we call the women's boxing a joke, Robbie? Ooh.
I'm not going to take the women seriously unless they fight under the same rules as the men.
And with my daughter right here next to me, how dare you? How dare you?
Yeah, but you're not going to allow her to be a boxer, are you?
She will not be a boxer. No.
Yes, I
Yeah, well, Lena just said she
Yeah.
will, so there you go. All right. Louis Ortiz signs with Albert Heyman. Louis Ortiz signs a contract with Al Heyman and will fight Derek Rossi on April 22nd. The other big heavyweight in Heyman's stable, Deontay Wilder. Is that a fight you think they're looking to make Beeb?
Wow. Wouldn't that be something? Wouldn't that be something? But you know what? You just have to look at the empirical data, man. Look at the track record of Deontay Wilder. It just doesn't seem like it's going to happen. I'm skeptical about it, let's be honest. And I think everyone should be skeptical that that's the plan. You know? What I'm thinking is because, you have the Eddie Hearn connection in there, I'm thinking that Louis Ortiz may be a future opponent for an Anthony Joshua. Anthony Joshua seems more likely of an opponent.
There you go.
I think, I'll tell you what, man. I think that Louis Ortiz, Anthony Joshua is much better fight. But I tell you what, everybody's impressed with Louis Ortiz. I'm not that impressed.
I'm not either. I'm not. I mean, obviously, I'm not going to say he's not a good fighter, but I'm not. I think he has a little bit of that Triple G type effect. People jumping on the bandwagon a little bit too quickly.
But hey, Deontay Wilder hasn't exactly looked like sliced bread lately.
He's winning. He's winning. I mean, that's the other thing too. I tell you, it's funny, and we rip up Deontay Wilder and his skills and everything like that, and and we talked about that swimming punch he did. It looked like he was doing that windmill type punch at the end of that fight, and how vulnerable he looks and everything. Man, what is he? 38-0? What is he? 38? Is he 38-0?
Yeah, 38-0,
36 knockouts, man.
And his next mandatory challenger is Bermane Stiverne, which I don't want to see that again.
I don't either, man. But it's difficult, man. He's one of those guys, man, where you're like, he looks so vulnerable at times in there, but 38 have come, man, 38 have gone, and 36 have been put out to pasture.
37.
30, there you go, 37. Louis Ortiz, to me, looks like a very flawed fighter as well. Look, man, I tell you what, they put him in with Deontay Wilder. Louis Ortiz definitely has a chance, no question. I mean, he's got, you might even favor him in the fight. But does he win that fight, man? I don't know, man.
Well, I think you should really start thinking about Louis Ortiz versus Anthony Joshua, because you have the best advisor in boxing as well as the best promoter in boxing.
Al Heyman?
It's a kid. Al Heyman and Eddie Hearn.
Eddie Hearn.
The best, the best promoter, the best promoter and the best advisor, linking up together. How could you go wrong? How could you go wrong?
Is Eddie Hearn the one who threw Kell Brook to the wolves and just pretty much shortened his career?
I told you the story about that.
Is that what happened?
I told you.
That's
I told you the story. Kell Brook demanded that fight.
Kell Brook demanded that fight.
He demanded that fight. He said he would possibly retire.
Is Eddie Hearn
if he didn't get that fight?
Eddie Hearn
and remember,
that blows every big fight.
And remember in our interview, Eric, Tom Loeffler said he had 2 days to make that fight. Remember that? 2 days.
I do remember that in our interview, Robert.
And Eddie,
our stellar interview with Tom Loeffler. Right. One of both of them. Both of them were stellar interviews, Robert.
Yeah.
Robbie and I, we put on the best interviews out there. And Tom Loeffler said 2 days. He had 2 days to make that fight, or Matchroom was pretty much going to shut their doors because their guy who they signed to make that fight just walked out on him. He said,
well,
no.
Let me just tell you, Eddie Hearn, George Groves and Carl Froch, 80,000. The mastermind behind that, 80,000. Anthony Joshua selling out in 30 seconds, baby. Eddie Hearn's the mastermind behind that.
Do you really think Eddie Hearn's the mastermind behind it? I mean, don't you think Frank Warren would have done the same thing?
You never know.
Yeah.
Yep.
You never know.
I mean, I have a feeling that you or I could go to England and sell those fights and get the same result. I don't
That's
think
right.
Matchroom has anything to do with it. I sure don't think Eddie Hearn.
Sky Sports that was going to close that door, Eric. Not Eddie Hearn of Sky Sports. Remember that.
Eddie
and who put the Sky Sports deal together? Eddie Hearn.
Okay.
All right. So, Beeb, what do you think of? Do you think Louis Ortiz? Do you think they make that fight with Deontay Wilder, or do you think they actually go after Joshua?
I think they go after Joshua.
Really?
Yep.
Wow.
After Joshua knocks out Klitschko, Louis Ortiz is next. He's next.
So you don't think they put Louis Ortiz against Deontay Wilder, or the winner fights? I mean, wouldn't that be more attractive?
I would do that. I would do that. I'd do that.
You still got to get Deontay Wilder to sign the contract. Doesn't matter what they want. Well, Deontay Wilder signed the contract
against Louis Ortiz.
Yes.
Yeah, I think he will.
I don't see why not, man. I think.
All right. I hope you're right.
Do you think
I want to be wrong. Don't get me wrong.
Do you think Deontay Wilder beats Louis Ortiz?
Honestly, I would. Wow. Yeah, I think he does. I would pick.
You would pick Wilder over Ortiz.
Yes.
What about you, Robert?
I honestly don't know. They both have looked pretty flawed lately. I really don't know. Because of that, it might be a hell of an interesting fight, but it won't last very long. I can guarantee you. Whoever wins.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing, man. Like I said, man, Deontay looks so flawed in his last couple of fights, and I mean, you see it. I mean, you see like big flaws in his game. But man, he's got that eraser, doesn't he? He's got that eraser. He's got it in both hands. He can hit you with either hand and put you out. He's such a monster of a guy.
I hate to criticize a guy like that because he's so nice. I mean, we interviewed him.
Yeah, he's unbelievable. Oh, he's a great guy, man. Yeah, Robert and I always interview the big fighters, so we've interviewed everybody. And Deontay Wilder is no different, and he's such a nice guy. Super.
I like Deontay Wilder.
He's awesome guy, man.
He's a good guy.
But again, I mean, still definitely a flawed guy. I mean, as far as fighting goes and everything. But you say that. And again, man, if he's got 38 wins, 37 knockouts, how can we say that when he's got 37 knockouts? You know, it's if you looked at his record, you'd be like, what are you talking about?
No, the power is real. There's no question about it. The power is real. So that's why.
Do you think either one of these guys beats Anthony Joshua?
No.
No, I don't either.
No.
I don't think they come close.
Anthony Joshua's the truth.
Anthony Joshua is the man in the heavyweight division, and he's going to cement that legacy on April 29th.
You think so? For that? I mean, to beat Klitschko? Does anybody think that?
Yeah.
First of all, does anybody think Klitschko wins that fight?
I don't.
I don't think he comes close. I think Joshua takes him out within 9 rounds. I don't think that fight's even close. I know a lot of people
less than that.
It's funny. A lot of people are taking. I think Klitschko is going to win, and man, I don't see it at all. I think Klitschko gets train wrecked in this one, man. No question. But I don't see anybody beating Joshua. I really don't, man. And since he's won the belt, he has been steady improving. Yeah, he's steadily improved. I mean, technique-wise and everything. I was watching an old video of him when he first turned pro. I think he had like 9 pro fights or something like that. And to watch him then and to watch him now is really unbelievable. I mean, there's a marked improvement.
You know why? Because he's got Eddie Hearn behind him, man. Best promoter in boxing. Got to give Eddie Hearn credit, man. He saw something in this kid.
Yeah, like the gold medal he won in the Olympics. Of course he saw something in the kid. What is he, 6 foot? He looks like a cartoon character. You know, he looks like a superhero. Of course he saw something in him.
I mean, he knew the best promoter. He knew who to sign with.
He knew who the sucker was. All right. All right, let's talk about Roy Jones Jr. here. Roy Jones Jr. Is one of the greatest boxers of all time. He tells TMZ Sports that his kid, Roy Jones III, who's actually killing it in Florida high school hoops, is destined for NBA greatness. Roy Jones Jr. says, I know he has that potential. He's talented enough to make the NBA. Yes. You know what, man? That's not the first time I've heard this. I've heard that this kid is very good at basketball, man. I've heard that before. And so in Roy Jones, of course, you know, he's known to have played basketball before, especially in that. What did he play? He played in like a basketball, then had a fight the same night.
Yeah.
That's right.
I don't know. Robert, you follow sports more than the rest of us, I think. Have you heard of Roy Jones' kid and basketball and stuff? I mean,
yeah,
what do you know about him?
Matter of fact, a lot of the top college coaches have been going to his games, like John Calipari in Kentucky and Roy Williams in North Carolina and several other coaches like that. They're heavily recruiting this kid. So, yeah, it looks like he's got a pro future.
Well, I'll tell you what, you know, if UK is watching me, you know he's the real deal. I mean, I'm a huge UK fan, so, you know, if UK is watching him, he's got to be the real deal.
You know UK, we know how we do it.
That's how we do it, son. Calipari, son.
Robbie, can I ask you a question? Because Roy Jones has twin sons. Is this
Sure.
one of the twins, or is this someone else?
I'm not sure how many kids Roy has.
Yeah, I know he has twin sons.
I know the son that. Yeah,
this is one of the twins.
Talking about a lot of the college coaches have been very high on him, so it'll be interesting to see where he goes.
That's crazy. I wonder where he's going to go. You think he stays in Florida? You think he goes to Kentucky?
I think he goes to the Calipari, the Kentucky factory with Calipari there.
How dare you? Are you saying that Kentucky is not a quality school? You one and done. You think so?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yep. He's on that level. He's on that level.
Calipari is a solid coach. I mean, his kids go to class.
Yeah, but they're only there a year. They're only there a year.
Said long enough to take swimming pool maintenance and then go to the NBA. There you go. 508. You are live.
It's Georgie.
From this day, you'll be my new fool.
What's going on, buddy?
What's going on? Getting used to that intro already. Let me holla, Robbie. Robbie, what's going on, baby? Oh, we got a superwoman up in here, baby. What's going on?
Well, hey, 3 minutes around, baby. 3 minutes around. Come on, get it done.
The female side of the species, baby, got some limitation. We can put these women at the same. What's going to be next? Fire dude? So
no. That'll never happen. Oh, come on. Don't be ridiculous.
But that's what I'm saying. So you wanted to go like the whole full round.
Yeah, 3 minutes. 3 minutes.
That's what I'm saying. But they set the limitation to the woman anatomy. You understand what I'm saying? Like putting a handicap to play with a regular kid.
In my opinion, if you're going to be a female and you're going to fight, you have to fight under the same rules as the men do. 3 minutes around.
So, Georgie, what are you trying to say? Women are handicapped, right? Georgie, you can't say women are handicapped.
Well, no, I mean, I didn't mean it like that.
Well, that's how it sounded, brother. You got to reword that.
They just said certain limitations that women cannot do certain things. You know what I'm saying? Just because, listen, if you work in somewhere and there is a woman co-worker, you may help her out just because she's a woman and she not can carry certain weight or something. You guys making the same money. You know what I'm saying? But I don't know.
Talking about the military argument now, Georgie. Come on, boxing is boxing. It's you should fight under the same rules.
Robert, if you had your druthers,
women haven't been throwing down. They haven't been throwing down historically at the same time as boxing being around for more than 150 years. How long women be boxing?
Robert,
40 years,
I don't
50
know,
years?
to be honest with you.
Robert,
Not even, probably. So, I mean, they're taking baby steps. So eventually it won't be like you wanted the whole 3 minutes or whatnot. We may give it to you, but we got to keep supporting.
Hey, if Katie Taylor could come out and say we need to fight 3 minutes, I support that.
Well, right. I don't know, man. I don't know about that. I think that's a quantum leap for women, if you ask me. Eventually, I guess they graduate to that level, but in the meantime, we got to be more supportive because you want the sport to grow. Man, women is the key.
That's it.
You got women into the sport, baby. You got the whole humanity.
They have to fight 3 minutes.
Oh.
Hard, baby, hard. Hopefully one day you change your mind, but hey, it is what it is. Let's talk about Beeb's Enterprises. That's what I want to talk about. When he wins, that man got so far. Eric, put out the record. Let me kick him while he's down.
What is it, B? What is it? What is it this year?
Well, the record out, baby.
He doesn't have one. I didn't get it.
Well,
where's the sheet at? Make it public.
We have to put the spreadsheet back up. We got one.
The numbers from the people.
We lost with Jacobs. Well, we really didn't do a beating the odds with Beeb for Jacobs.
No.
We didn't actually do one for Jacobs.
No, we both picked Jacobs though. We did.
We did.
We won the fight, Beeb.
We did. But the big score was the Andre Ward score because we did do a beating the odds of Beeb for that.
Yeah.
There was no way we weren't going to do a beating the odds of Beeb for that.
Well, you know what, guys? June 17th is coming up. You could do a rematch for that.
Yeah. Yeah. What fights are on the horizon that we could do a beating the odds of Beeb?
I didn't even know about that rematch. I didn't know about that rematch.
Definitely.
I'm on the group of guys that say no rematch.
We're definitely going to do a.
They're going to have one, George. It is.
Yeah,
I know, but I wouldn't take it. I wouldn't. If I would have cobbled up, I'm just gonna let it be. Just let it be. If it goes down the history like that, it goes down the history. Somebody gonna check it on YouTube 50, 100 years from now, and with your own eyes, you're gonna see who won. Because doesn't matter what anybody, doesn't matter what I tell you, say what it goes from the book is that he lost. That's what comes down in the book. So.
I've got an idea. Why don't you do a bet for May 6th?
Who's on May 6th?
The Canelo, is that the Canelo fight?
That's Canelo and Chavez.
What about Brooks?
Listen, I don't know. I'm gonna tell you why. Canelo, it's hard to tell with Canelo. Canelo, it's like I don't know, man. I don't know if the man is a mirage or he's real. He look real, but you cannot really tell.
Yeah.
Because I mean, if you guys were talking before, you got your own 154-pound division. 155-pound division. You weren't really fighting the Charlos or the Boo-Boos or no fucking real trade out there. The only fucking the Cuban dude, that was the only dude that he fought on the Mayweather shit, pretty much. So you got two names out there. You got a loss and another win that was almost a draw. Somebody see you lost. You know what I'm saying? So you really don't know what's up with Canelo. A dedicated Chavez. I don't know. They got the weight class. The weight class on the contract, which is really smart.
$1 million.
But a dedicated Chavez, go there. We got good 15 pounds on that dude. He put on work on him.
I'm telling you what.
If he goes some way, don't give a fuck about the money, and go there nice and strong, baby, he could pull it out. I don't think Canelo. I see people talking about Canelo beating Triple G. I'm like, what?
Big weight difference. Big weight difference.
Canelo beating Triple G.
Georgie.
I'm beating no Triple G, man.
Georgie, Kell Brook, Errol Spence. I like Errol Spence all the way, baby. That's the next beating the odds with Beeb. Errol Spence. Errol Spence, Kell Brook.
We cannot have this misinformation going on. We cannot have this. I see everybody be talking in these podcasts, all the blog talks and all these YouTube things, how the UK fan is a lot better than the US fan when it comes to boxing. And that's not true.
I don't think it's true either.
That's not true.
I don't think it's true either.
What is true is that we're waking up over here in the States. We're seeing all these conglomerates, all these back deals, and all that bullshit going on behind doors and fucked up decision. We already know what time it is. On the UK, they got David Hay as a hero. Who the fuck David Hay ever fought? That they got this man all the way up there on that pedestal. I just don't get it. Billy Joe Saunders, the same shit. I know we don't get exposed to the UK as much as we should of UK fighters. I understand there is an ignorance here in the UA, on the USA from the UK fighters. I understand that completely. But in the other hand, it's a bunch of high jumps from that neck of the woods. But we're going to glorify the UK the UK fans, because they back up their fighters. I wish there would be more than like we are in the US. And doubt these people. And until they're not proven, don't back them up.
Yep.
But I guess it's going to take time, like always. It's going to take time. But, well, pretty much that much it. Thank you guys for the show. I'm always going to support everybody out there at Thumbs Up and support.
Oh, I appreciate it, man. Thank you so much.
Errol Spence, baby. Errol Spence. That's the next beating yards of Beeb, baby. Errol Spence.
Look at you just starting trouble.
Errol Spence will knock out Cal Brook.
He will.
Yeah. I think so too.
Well, we have a pie bet, me and Georgie, with that. If Spence doesn't get the knockout, I'm in trouble.
Yeah.
That's right.
That's the bet.
Yeah.
Teflon TV is brought up an interesting point.
He's in trouble, Pete, because he's going to knock him out.
Teflon TV in the chat brought up actually an interesting point. So he says the only woman boxer that can be a star has to be hot. She has to be a very pretty girl in order to be a star. Do you guys think that's accurate? Do you guys think that's true?
Well, you got a point there.
Wow.
Yeah, I agree.
Unfortunately.
Yep, I agree.
You think so?
Unfortunately, I think Teflon TV is correct.
Oh, you guys are sexist. I don't think so. I mean, look at like Christy Martin. I don't think she was that hot. I mean, did you guys think she was that hot? She was a big star. She wasn't exactly Layla Ali. I mean, she was a big star.
I don't think she was. Well,
I think
she was the first big woman star in boxing. She really was, wasn't she?
I think Lucia Ryko was. I think Lucia Ryko was.
I think in 2017 times though, if you really want to get casuals to come to the sets, she probably is going to have to look good, unfortunately.
So I mean, like if you had a girl like
that's horrible because.
So if you had a girl that was like Mike Tyson knocking everybody out in like 30 seconds, and she looked like I don't know, Maud or somebody like that, or I don't know, I don't know, name an ugly chick, I don't know, but just very not appealing. Put it that way. I mean, you don't think she would sell? I think KO power. I mean, I think if you got a girl murking everybody, that would sell.
Correct me if I'm wrong here, Beeb, but from a marketing standpoint, not only would she have to be a decent looking person, but she should have to be intelligent in order to sell herself, don't you think?
Well, she'd have to have a good kind of a persona to her. Yeah, she'd have to have some type of
exactly.
I hate to use the word, but she'd have to have some type of gimmick.
Yeah.
Well, exactly.
I don't know, man. I think if you have somebody like Tyson knocking people out, because Tyson, it wasn't, when you first heard him talk, it's like, dude, really? It wasn't like he would scare anybody, Yeah. I think that, if you had a girl that was just completely dominant and no matter what she looked like, I think that would sell. I don't think I think her looks would be, honestly, I think her looks would be irrelevant. I really do.
I'm not so sure Christy Martin crossed over though. She wasn't on any magazine covers like Ronda Rousey,
or like Mia St. John. I mean, Mia St. John, in Playboy or something like that, or and stuff.
Yes, she was. Yeah,
and it doesn't hurt. Yeah. No question, it doesn't hurt. I mean, if you have the look, and the same thing with fighters too. I mean, if you have a look, obviously that it helps you market. I'm just saying, like I said, man, if you got a girl out there putting people away in the first round, I think that sells. I really do. I think ultimately the product sells, but
case in point, Eric, every time they have a Canelo fight, they always talk about his female fans. because they're attracted to the way he looks.
Right. Or look at De La Hoya. I mean, look at De La Hoya. It was the same way, where he was always talking about chicks going to his place, and like the women would say, there would be a lot of women at his fights and everything like that. But and like I said, it didn't hurt. But then you take a guy who's not exactly a cover model, and who was a good fighter, and there's a lot of them, and they sold a lot of tickets too. Did they sell as many as De La Hoya?
Yeah,
maybe not. But again, he's the guy that crossed over to mainstream too. That's a big deal. When you actually make that crossover,
there's another guy in boxing now. There's another guy in boxing now. Once he comes over to this country, he'll do the same thing, and that's Anthony Joshua.
Yeah, well, and Joshua's again. I mean, he could be a cover model somewhere. He looks like, I mean, so he's got the look. He's got
exactly.
He was and I keep going back to the story, man. He was one of the top 5 most marketable athletes in the world. You think about that for a minute. He was on that list.
Yeah.
Out of soccer players, basketball players, everybody. I think Ronaldo or something like that was number 1, and then you have the number 5 was Joshua. That's pretty crazy if you think about it. I mean, that's some selling power, man.
No question.
So there it is. All right, Floyd Mayweather is selling a very rare car, one that I can't even pronounce. Floyd Mayweather is selling one of the most rare and expensive cars in his collection. It's called and I'm going to butcher it, but Koenigsegg CCXR Trevita. Only one of 2 in the world. I've never heard of it either.
Never heard of it.
Check this out. The car has 1,018 horsepower, top speed of over 254 miles an hour, and it goes 0 to 60 in 2.8 seconds. They said he paid $4.8 million for it in 2015. Why would you need to go that fast for? I don't know. I mean, what would you need, to 254 miles an hour? I get about 75 on my Prius, and that's about fast enough for me. But that's just me, though. 4.8 million. He paid 4.8 million. So he's probably looking for like 5 or 6 million. You remember the last time he put his car up to auction? He was all ticked off because it didn't sell.
Yeah.
So there you go. Just a bit of who cares news. Yeah. And some more who cares news.
Yep.
The fight Pacquiao versus Horn could be finalized soon. The fight would be scheduled for July 2nd. The fight will most likely take place in Australia. I couldn't be less interested in this fight at all. I hate what Pacquiao's doing. He needs to get every piece of hate that Mayweather got for facing guys like Berto in his last fight. I would rather see Pac versus Berto. At least Berto is a credible fighter. I don't know if Jeff Horn is a credible fighter. Jeff Horn may very well be a credible fighter. But I don't.
You know what I'd rather see?
What?
I'd rather see 2 pigeons in the street fighting over a piece of bread instead of Pacquiao versus Jeff Horn.
Oh, now why do you have to mess with?
I would rather see Manny Pacquiao and Terrence Crawford. That's what I want to see.
I'd rather watch Manny Pacquiao watch a fight than to watch Manny Pacquiao fight Jeff Horn. So there it is. Sullivan Barrera versus Paul Parker is set for April 15th, and Terrence Crawford versus Felix Diaz set for May 20th in Madison Square Garden, not in New Jersey, but Madison Square Garden. There you go. Any final thoughts, Robert?
The Paul Parker fight has been added to HBO Latino for those that care.
There it is. There it is. What about you, Beeb? Any parting shots?
Well, let's see Lomachenko versus Jason Sosa next week, man. Not a bad one. But the fight that I'm really looking forward to is this
90 seconds.
Errol Spence versus Kell Brook, man. I'm really, really excited for that fight.
I can't wait for that fight. I mean,
really. Oh, my God.
You know what? And that'll be the litmus test for Errol Spence, I think.
It certainly will.
Everybody has kind of anointed him as the next heir apparent, right? I mean, really. I mean, they've all said he is the next guy.
I'm guilty of that myself.
I am too. And it kind of makes you nervous because Kell Brook's no pushover.
Yeah.
I mean, Kell Brook is a decent fighter.
60 seconds.
But do you think Kell Brook, let's stay on this for a second here. Do you think Kell Brook has fought enough quality opposition?
No.
And do you think Errol Spence has done the same?
No.
I don't either. You know, we go off the stories, and I mean, I go off a lot of the stories that I hear about the gym where he really put it on Mayweather in the gym. He's put it on Broner in the gym. Apparently made Broner cry in the gym, and it's been verified. apparently he really put it on Broner in that sparring session. But again, it's just sparring. That's practice.
Gave Mayweather that black eye too.
Well,
supposedly.
I'll tell you guys a story. Well, I told Eric this because I was actually a part of this call. But earlier this
10 seconds.
Call for Hadley and Charlo, and Derek James, who's Charlo's trainer, actually got everybody stirred up because apparently Spence tore up Charles Hadley in sparring, and once that came out and how Spence dominated him, the media that was there actually went nuts, and the whole conference call, it was a disaster anyway, but it really fell apart after that.
And he stirred it up he stirred the pot over there with the press conference between him and Brooke as well, between Spence and Brooke. So that was that's kind of his MO, I think, is to stir that up. But you hear these stories about Spence and sparring, that he's beating these top level guys. I mean, and just making them look silly, just getting the best of these guys and stuff like that. Well, now he's going to have to go in there and fight, and but if he goes out there and beats Brooke, do you give the excuse to Brooke? Well, he just fought Triple G. Triple G took a lot out of him. The weight cut took a lot out of him. Do you give him those excuses, or no, this is legit?
Well, Eric, think about it.
My problem with this, and Beeb, you can comment on this in a minute, but I don't think this fight should even be happening just because of all that Brooke had to go through. He jumped up 2 weight classes, took on the beast of the division, got his eye socket broke, and it had to heal. And those things never heal properly anyway. If I'm Earl Spence, the first thing I do when I get in that ring with him is I start going after that eye. I think Cal Brooks should be fighting at 154 or 160. This fight shouldn't even be occurring.
Think about it, though. If you listen to the press conference, right, they had to announce this fight, and you're hearing Cal Brooks saying, "Oh, well, I just gotta not, wake up in the middle of the night and go downstairs and mess around in the kitchen and eat what I'm not supposed to, don't eat what I'm not supposed to eat." He's basically openly saying that he's got a problem making the weight. And his whole team said that he should have moved up to 154. This was his decision because he does not want to relinquish his title. So there's already, rumblings about him not really being able to make weight comfortably. And I talked about Errol Spence being huge and him being huge, right? They're both big guys. You can argue that Errol Spence is even bigger than Kell Brook, but guess what? Errol Spence has no problem making the cut.
Yeah.
He's never complained about it. He's never talked about it. We've heard Kell Brook talk about it for at least a year, having problems making 147. And not only that, let's take a look at him in that Golovkin fight, right? What did he weigh in at, 159? He was actually heavier than Golovkin.
Something like that, yeah.
Yeah, he sure was.
Heavier than Golovkin 30 days out. But this is the key point to look at. He was lean. He was lean, and he looked cut, and he looked in shape.
Yeah.
The night of the, in the ring with Golovkin.
There's not much to lose there.
Yeah, so if he's already lean at 160, that means that tells me that when he makes the cut for 147, he's losing muscle mass.
Absolutely.
And that can't help you.
No.
I don't care who you are, that can't help you. And not only that, you look at the eye, too. That eye, I'm telling you, if it gets tapped, I think every time it gets tapped from here on out, it is going to swell like a balloon. And then looking at Spence, how great I think he is just by watching him fight, looking at the skill set, I'm high on him already without all those other things factoring in. So with those things factoring in, to me, it's going to be a short night. It's going to be a short night for Kell Brook. I don't think he's going to last. I don't think he's making it out of this fight.
And that means Joe takes a pie.
And I tell you, I don't think that I think it was a wrong move for him to stay at 147. if you move up, I mean, if he moves up to 154, he's got Jermell Charlo there. He's got Jarrett Hurd. He's got his pick. I mean, and Jarrett Hurd, of all the people, I mean, he's an IBF. So if he moves up, he's probably number one contender for Jarrett Hurd right now. And Jarrett Hurd looks vulnerable as any champion there. I mean, he did not look great, you know. And I think Jarrett Hurd is a good fight, you know.
I got to be honest with you, and I probably have no right to say this because who am I? But I think it's a stupid move not going to 154. I think it's just flat. I think it's just flat dumb. That's just my opinion.
That's what I thought. That's what I thought when they announced.
I'm sorry. I got to be honest. Flat. It's just straight up stupid. Not going 154.
This was just a decision based on stupidity. I mean, just bravado. You know,
it's hard-headed. It's him being hard-headed.
That's what it was. And the problem is that instead of going up and fighting for a title at 154, you're going to come back down, and I think he's going to get demolished. And once that happens, good luck coming back from that one, because that's two in a row.
Yeah, just like it was stupid fighting Golovkin at 160. Stupid fighting Spence at 146. And let's talk about this now, too. Look at all the fighters that moved up, back down. Were they successful? Let's take a look at them now. Now, you look at Roy Jones when he went up to went up to heavyweight. Then he went back down to 175. What happened?
Yep, he got
knocked out.
I mean, he won the decision, but then he got pasted in the second fight.
Yeah,
but it's that weight cut. It's that weight cut.
That's what it is.
Yeah,
and arguably he lost against Tarver in the first fight. People.
Yeah.
So let's look at De La Hoya, not fighting at 147 for years, and all of a sudden deciding to come back down to 147 against Pacquiao.
Yeah,
he lost.
Tarver takes it out of you.
Yeah, that weight. This is kind of maybe irrelevant, but he did the movie Balboa, and he got up to 200 pounds for that movie. And then he had to peel all that weight off to fight Hopkins. Right? He lost handily.
Yeah.
You know, so you have all these fighters who moved up and tried to move back down, and they weren't successful. You know, they just weren't successful. Just didn't happen. Like even Sugar Ray Leonard, you know, he was fighting at 160, then he moved up to 168, but then he tried to go back down to 154 to fight Terry Norris. You know what I'm saying? Saw what happened. Yeah. So, you know, once you move up and you try to move back down, especially if you were struggling making the weight in the first place, which caused you to move up, and then you heard all these stories. Oh, you know, I'm going to be better at 160. I'm not a 147 pounder. You know, his words basically incriminated himself.
Yeah.
He's already given you an alibi, you know, for this fight when he loses. He's already telling you he can't make 147 comfortably. He already told you that he's going to feel better at 160, and after the Golovkin fight, he said he was going to go down to 154. He was the one that said all these things. So why contradict yourself now? Why contradict yourself now?
If he loses as badly as we think he's going to lose, it's going to be hard for him to go down to 154 and say, okay, I'm going to be a good fighter here now after 2 straight knockouts.
Well, yeah, I mean, at that point, I mean, you got to go to 154, and now you're going to have to reestablish yourself because, I mean, you just got knocked out in 2 straight fights. Now you're going to have to reestablish yourself. And you know what? The worst part about this is from what I understand, Eddie Hearn, his trainers, his handlers, his management, everybody to a person said, do not go back down to 147. 154 is where you need to be.
Yeah.
And he said, no, I want to defend my title. And to do it against this guy, you know, this isn't like, you know, listen, man, I've got all the respect in the world for Sean Porter. This ain't Sean Porter.
Yeah.
This is
just like Eddie begged him that day when he came in the office and slammed his fist down on the desk when he wanted to fight Golovkin. Eddie begged him, hey, don't do it. Don't do it, Calvin. I mean, that's what he did, but you know, this guy's hard-headed, man. He's hard-headed.
Eddie put the gun to his head. Eddie put the gun to his head. You better sign this because, or else this whole thing is gonna fold. All right, that'll do it for this edition of Ringside Reporter. As always, you can catch Robert on Twitter at Ringside Robert, or you can call Ringside Robbie's Corner at 773-572-7781. and leave him a message. You can catch Joe Habib on Twitter at jhabib1 and find his YouTube channel at www.beatingtheoddswithbeeb.com. I'm at Ringside 73, and we will see you next week.
Good night, everybody.